Welcome back to Uncontested. My name is Chelsea Peace, and I'm here with my co-host, Stacy Geiger. Last week, we talked to you about how your financial landscape will change whenever you're going through a divorce and how to navigate it. And this week, we want to talk to you about how to recognize that you may be in a dictatorship and not so much of a partnership in your current relationship. And if you're in your trajectory towards your divorce, then we want to give you a couple of tips and tricks to keep a lookout for. Welcome back to Uncontested. All right. So, Stacy, the question of the day, right? We've talked on previous episodes about how we are separating ourselves from a marriage. We're grieving who we are, the partnership we were in, the life we thought we were living. And the question of the day is going to be, how often do you find that there are situations where one partner thinks they're in a partnership, but in reality, they're in a dictatorship?
So much more often than you would think, right? So a lot of women don't realize that they're not having actual equal discussions with their spouse. It's, if you go to your spouse and you say, I think we should go, I'd really like to go on vacation next month. And perhaps that person says yes, but then you're not deciding where, you're not deciding when, you're not deciding how much money, and you realize, oh, we went on vacation, we had a great time, but you made none of these decisions and how much was spent. So it's as small things as that as to what we've discussed last week was maybe you're getting an allowance. I think if somebody says I get an allowance, maybe that's just the giant red flag that goes off, right? Like the word allowance means you're in a dictatorship. You're treated equal to a child. You get so much money a month, and that's all you have. You have zero control in your relationship, and it certainly isn't equal. So let's call that one end of the spectrum.
Okay.
And the other end is fully equal, right? So there are things that you can look at that say, maybe this isn't what I thought it was. And I think one of them is who makes decisions. If you come up with an idea or somehow you want to behave in your relationship and the other person manipulates you into thinking a different way and you don't even realize it, well, that's a dictatorship, right? Mm-hmm. Like you might think, I really want our family to do this, and you don't wind up doing that. You do something totally different. That wasn't your choice.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women, when they look back on things, they realize for the past 5, 10, 15 years, I've never made any choices. I thought I did because I thought I said, okay, maybe our house is getting too small and we need to expand. We have 3 kids and 3 bedrooms. We should have 4 bedrooms. We should get a bigger house. Well, but then you don't pick the house. You don't pick the location. You don't make any of those choices. You don't select the realtor. Maybe you don't even see any of the houses. It's presented as a gift. I mean, this happens.
I'm
right?
mind blown because this is a totally different life than I've ever lived. And I'm just going, wow.
Right. I mean, could you imagine, like, we bought this house. I've sold our house from under you, and I've bought this house. And you think on its face, wow, what an incredible gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, my husband bought me a house. Well, he bought the house he wanted, and none of your opinions were considered. Probably, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Oh my goodness!
But it's things to think back, and they happen, because in that moment, you don't think.
Well, what I'm hearing from you, right, in my mind, because I am such a headstrong woman, like, damn, I'd really love for somebody to plan me a vacation. If I say I want to go on vacation, book it. Let me know. But I can see where if somebody's doing all the thinking for you all the time, if they're giving you an allowance, you kind of sound like an employee.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. You're just another person that is being controlled under their system.
And then I think about it too, as I look back on my relationship, all the times where I wanted to make a decision for our family, but we had to take into account how big of a temper tantrum was it going to equate to on the other side whenever I finally said, like, no, I don't like that decision. Sometimes we like just walk on eggshells and decide to go with whatever they decide to say, whatever they wanted, because we don't want to deal with the emotional fallout of like them being angry for the next 48 hours, right? Like,
I think that alone is a giant red flag.
mm-hmm. It really is.
If you're sitting back thinking, and this is to everybody, if you are sitting back and thinking, if I do this, the universe is going to explode on me, and I'm not prepared for hiding in a bunker for implosion, that might be just maybe the beginning of the downhill.
Yes, it was way more than the beginning, but it was, my blinders were on, right? I think back to, I made a podcast episode yesterday about weaponized incompetence, of how sometimes that person who has the undercurrent of the emotional state of the house on eggshells all the time, we have to go with whatever they want to do, or else we're all going to be miserable. And so it came down to like even just the simplest of Sunday's the day where we reset the house, and me and the kids are cleaning the house, and he's chilling, sitting on the couch watching TV because he's just so tired. And he worked all week. And we just want to give him a break because we know if we ask him, oh, well, I had to do this and do that. And it just kind of felt like there's no point in asking. We're all better off just working hard and doing what we got to do to reset the house so that we don't make him upset.
Right. And we know that in your situation, like many, that it was a dual income household. You were both working.
Yeah.
So it's not fair. It's not equal. It certainly starts the thinking of, is this a dictatorship?
Yeah.
Is only one of us making the major decisions? And that's, it's hard to look back on that and see it.
It is. And then I can also see where it flipped the dynamic to where when it did become a one-income household, I started to turn into the dictator. I'm not going to lie. A little bit of my own red flags there. Hold on. What bills do you pay, sir? You know, like, But
that's not to say, but on the same token, because we will, and again, because for the most part, we talk to women out there.
Right.
And if all things are, if we're being honest, for the more women are stay-at-home moms, housewives than men, right?
Right.
But it's not to minimize that workload, right? I mean, if one person is working, the other person, odds are, doing some sort of equal footing or at least contribution. I mean, the house isn't going to clean itself. Mm-hmm. The kids don't magically get dressed in the morning unless your kids are unbelievably disciplined.
Yeah.
Not speaking personally, it's fine. There's a million things that need to be done before 8 a.m. that the person who's working normally is not doing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of invisible labor that goes into being a stay-at-home parent.
It is.
Yeah.
Invisible labor. I like that.
It's invisible labor because you're not thinking about the grocery list, the appointments that we have to go to, the soccer game, how I got to make sure that I wash his uniform so that it's ready for Saturday because last Saturday he hit a home run and slid into all of the things. Most people just think, oh, she's just a stay-at-home mom. She's probably watching Netflix all day. No, Most of the women that I know who are stay-at-home moms, their houses are pristine. And I know as a single mom and a business owner, my house is not pristine, okay?
You've been to mine. It's certainly.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's not appreciated because you don't ever get to turn off being a mom.
No. And one of the things, so if we're going to quickly jump back, that's one of the things that, might come up to recognize there's a problem, is that if you're that person and you're doing all of these things, and if you forget one thing and the other person blows up on you and says, why aren't their uniforms ready to go? Why didn't you put their lunch in? As if they're you forget lunch one time, your child's going to starve to death. Mm-hmm. These aren't going to happen. But if that sets off a giant explosion of anger,
right, that's
a problem.
Red flag. We need a flag. We need to get a prop.
Right? And just, that's a red flag.
We're going to drop that on the plate.
Somebody's super angry over lunchbox. I mean, mistakes happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if the other person does not recognize that, now that's not an equal relationship.
Right. And that goes back to, again, this is really in alignment with that podcast episode that I did yesterday, that well, if you just told me that it needed to get done, then I could have done it and then we wouldn't be in this problem, right? Well, wait a minute.
How many times did you suggest maybe you do these things?
Yes, but it's almost like they're going to do that. They're going to make you the problem if that one thing didn't happen. And you're going to say, well, I just needed help. And they're going to well, you didn't tell me that you needed help. Well, damn, I have to manage your own perception of the fact that the laundry needs to get done. The dishes need to get done. Hey, by the way, the kid needs to take a bath. Anybody at any point could point at them and say, go take a shower or just make it happen.
Right.
But I feel like, I don't know, I myself fell into that trap of, well, if I had just spoken up sooner and said that I needed help, then we wouldn't be in this. So it's always our fault.
You're always making excuses.
You're making excuses, and you're taking ownership of the problem because you're being convinced slowly but surely that you're the problem.
Right. And then you don't realize it until years later when you look back and you say, well, it really wasn't me. It wasn't 100% me.
It is sometimes.
Sure. I mean,
we have our own problems.
Absolutely. I have sent my child to school with one shoe. My bad. But you look back and you're like, that was a mistake. And if you're in an equal partnership, you laugh about it, move on and say, okay, tomorrow, we'll make a note. Kid gets 2 shoes to go to school. Mm-hmm. Great. But if you're going home and you're like, oh my God, I got a call from the teacher because he had 1 shoe on today at school and we both, now this is going to be my worst day ever. Mm-hmm. That's red flag. We're flags, red flag.
We need to buy them. We do.
We do. Mine turned into, a comedy session. So if yours is not a comedy session and it is an anger nightmare for you, red flag.
No, I really love that because I do think that in a genuine, healthy partnership, like I think about this one thing that happened when the girls were little. They had these really cute Easter outfits with like ruffle leggings at the bottom, and they were so excited to go to school and be in these little outfits. And one of them tripped on her way to class and busted her knee open. And I didn't hear the end of it. But I feel like in a healthy partnership, and I think about you and Eric, like if you had texted him and be like, such and such busted their knee open wearing them cute little outfits they were so worried about, y'all would be laughing about it. And you'd be like, well, I guess they won't buy the frilly pants anymore. Like, it's not a big deal.
It's not.
But if they make a big deal out of something that's not a big deal,
then
red flag.
No, red flag.
Red flag.
Right.
Okay, so how does that typically play out in legal situations? Like, give me the worst of the worst. If somebody's
so the issue is now if you can look back and you say, gosh, I've been in this relationship and he has been controlling the whole thing for all these years. What am I going to do? And I get these calls all the time. I'm on an allowance, or he makes all the decisions. I'm not allowed to do these things. I'm not allowed. I love that. It's going to turn quickly because he's not unintelligent. Most likely, people who are manipulative they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It takes somebody with a solid base knowledge to know how to puppeteer someone, right? I mean, that it's not something that you learn. I mean, you develop that skill over time and you learn how to create this. So you can also turn around and make it look like you're the best person in the room. So
covert.
It is.
Covert.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and it turns around into, it reverses, right? So the spouse who is controlling then says, well, she takes the kids all the time. She doesn't let me have them, or I had to give her only, X amount of dollars per month because she has a spending problem. Look at our credit cards. So as you are recognizing this, my suggestion always is look, if that's what he's going to say, look, what is the argument going to be?
So I'm being pushed to say, how do you defend yourself against that?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's prepare for that.
The best advice that I could give anybody in this situation, because it's going to happen. If you're in a high conflict divorce, they're going to try to push your buttons. They've been with you. In my case, it was 10 years. They know all of the things that get under your skin, and they are good at it. And the best thing that you could do in those situations is be factual and non-emotional. And it's really hard to do it the first time. But if, you said she has a spending habit. I don't have a spending habit is the wrong thing to do. Right. The right thing to do would be, that's a really interesting take on how I spend my money, but I'm open to hearing any suggestions you have about how I could do that differently.
Right.
Don't take ownership of it. Acknowledge what they said, and then just leave it alone, because that will confuse them. I want you to be empowered to confuse the manipulator, because they're used to your reaction. They've been with you for a long time. They know what makes you shrink. They know what makes you stop.
And a dictator loves that.
Yes.
Somebody who exercises control loves to see the other person cower, lose, and then apologize.
You said puppeteer. Mm-hmm. They genuinely are like, oh, I think about covert narcissism. That is genuinely a term that I Googled millions of times during my divorce. But you can't diagnose anybody, right? You could just point out traits and things that you see along the way, patterns. But they really thrive on being able to control you emotionally. So if they've been doing that to you for 10 years, imagine what they'll do to you whenever they're trying to fight for your children and they want to see you in pain over that. When they try to point out that you're the bad parent or you're unfit or you're keeping them from them, and they just want to see you go crazy. I talked about it before. Let them be the toddler who's throwing a temper tantrum in an empty room.
And it comes back to how do we prepare for this? And these are the conversations that we have because this episode is about preparing, recognizing what you're in, and then how am I going to handle this in a divorce? Because it's going to be definitely high conflict, unquestionably, right? So prepare yourself. Make those calendars.
Yes.
I take the kids. I've had this calendar for years. It's on here. It says you put it on your refrigerator, or wherever you keep a family calendar in your phone. Or he has the ability to come and see and do. And then start recognizing who's around you who sees that. Because there's a good chance that you're going to need witnesses. Maybe it is the head of the soccer team, the coach. Mm-hmm. And it's been the same coach for the last 5 years. Your kid's been on the same team. Has he ever seen Dad come here? I mean, twice, maybe. But he knows that you come every week and you bring the oranges and your kids are dressed and you come to every game, and he recognizes the traits in your kids and knows what they're like, and he can testify to that.
Yeah, so get your calendar together. Mm-hmm. Character witnesses, absolutely, very, very important part of your trial.
Because that's a big one. If he's turning around, if one of the arguments is going to be, bad mom, she keeps the kids from me, then you want your own little army.
Yeah, because normally they've got their own little army of people that they've convinced all of these things, and they might even try to say, like, if you just say this one thing for me. It doesn't always play out that way, but I would rather have a bunch of truth tellers on my side with facts and documented dates and things that I can refer to on the stand all day long. But I think it also, preparation-wise, is know the true facts about you and who you are as a person. So going back to the plug for me of you knowing your values and what you stand for and your high qualities that you have about yourself. Because a lot of times when you're in a dictatorship for a long time, I just plugged that. I'm calling your relationship a dictatorship. When you've been in one for a long time, you kind of lose the good qualities that you find in yourself. Like you distance yourself from them because you're convinced all the time that you can't make good decisions. Or I just take it on because you just seem so stressed about it. And they kind of plant those little seeds over time that you're not someone to be trusted. So I need you to get really good at seeing yourself. And whenever they try to fluster you, like, that's not true. But I'll note that and then just write it down. Like it takes a while to get there. It definitely does. But that's where you want to make sure that you have the right legal team and the right support for you and your self-development as you move through this process.
And even notes, we've suggested multiple times that once you're separate or you're in separate houses where you're speaking perhaps only by email or text, but not oral communication, right? Mm-hmm. Have a list of responses that you can prepare. So it's not emotional responses. It's, thought out, prepared responses. Things that you just say, I will I will take your words into consideration and I will get back to you. You know,
Yeah.
let me
Yellow
think on this.
rocking is what I've learned is what that's called. It's positive, non-emotional, neutral communication. So it's not gray rocking, which you might have heard before, where it's just like, yes, no, no, thank you. It's absolutely, I appreciate your concern. I will definitely let the therapist know that you have those thoughts. Would you like to join one of those meetings? And that just, again, dictatorship would throw them for a loop because they're not used to you communicating so calm, cool, and collected.
It does, especially once this begins. Once, and it's not a secret. Once you file for divorce, it is going to be just a barrage of poking the bear. And you're the one being poked. He's looking for automatic reactions to make you angry that wind up making you look bad.
That's all they're looking for.
No, and
Look
the
at her.
second you put it in writing or do something, that becomes part of the dissolution.
Yes.
So we want to minimize that. And it's hard. I respond on instinct all the time.
Oh, yeah. Let me take 3 deep breaths, back away. Like, I used to type out the message, and I think I told you all this before. I would tell ChatGPT, I would screenshot it and be like, help me to not react to this message, but respond to it. And this was way back before ChatGPT was your biggest fan and always told you that you were right. So, like, maybe that's not the best advice today, but it helped me a lot.
It helps you rewrite words. If
Yeah.
you think if you can't find the words because you're so angry, and it is a good use of AI supposedly for clients, for anyone who's having a hard time communicating. AI will help you communicate effectively. At least change your words that say, I hate you so much. I think we're having a disagreement.
Yeah.
know?
It's like a prompt you can give and be like, I am in the middle of a high conflict divorce and my co-parent just sent me this message. This is the situation from my perspective. How can I communicate that in an effective way so that they understand where I'm coming from, but I'm not also abandoning myself?
Right.
And then it will tell you.
If you can't be in therapy consistently or at the beginning, or you're not ready to go there, find a way to frame your words so that they're said at least neutrally,
Yes.
Positively and not reactionary.
And I know another place where we'd probably go is I had to cut all verbal communication in the middle of my high conflict divorce. Like, I didn't want to talk on the phone because I feel like I don't have the opportunity to step back from my emotions when we're in a real time conversation. Like, he's trying to poke the bear. My immediate instinct when I'm in the middle of a communication with you is, I'm going to give it right back to you. But I had to be like, hey, so I'm not available right now. You're more than welcome to text me about it. I'm in the middle of work or whatever. I would just use whatever excuse I had to get him into a text message so that he could not see that he had power over me still. Because it's a long road to go from someone controlling how you show up in this dynamic to freeing yourself and separating yourself and finding out like, hey, listen, I'm stepping into this person who no longer tolerates that type of behavior.
And a lot of times a master manipulator will put things in writing that are blatant lies. And what's nice is it's now in writing, but your response can be, this is not actually true. This happened. And then you identify all the things that happen.
Did you read my text message? I'm kidding. Yeah, you did. They were in my evidence.
But right, I mean, this did not happen, because if it's on the phone, he can say anything. He can make you as angry as he wants to be, and then get you angry, or at least attempt to trick you into some sort of agreement that you don't necessarily agree to. But if it's in writing, you can read it, you can slowly respond, and you can casually repoke the bear by saying, I don't think you have the right facts.
Yeah. I remember very specifically one situation where like 3 weeks later, all of a sudden I'm being told about, I'm so concerned about a conversation that I had with our daughter. I'm like, 3 weeks later? like trying to instigate, trying to make it seem like I never provided the therapist information, whatever. It happens to pop up at the most opportune times too. So just remember whenever you're going into like, we've got mediation coming up, we've got trial coming up, we've got something. There's usually like they turn the volume up on those things whenever those dates are coming up is a pattern that I recognize with our dictators as well. Just, again, we're preparing you. We want you to know all the things.
But also to recognize the signs. Like, who is this person I'm with? If you're sitting back and you're thinking, I think that our relationship is not what it used to be. I think that it's possible that maybe divorce is right for us. And then you're hearing us talk and you see this other person we were just talking earlier about, I don't want to discipline my kids this way anymore. We're 5 years in and, he spanks them or does a weird timeout or something. That's not how I want to do it. I want to sit down with my kids and have a conversation, but I don't get to make that decision.
Or if you go to bring it up and it turns into one of those explosive conversations that we just talked about.
And then you learn that you're wrong. So if you're hearing that and you're hearing us and you're like, wow, this is where I am. Just know, again, always a light at the end of the tunnel because it will end eventually. But this is what's going to happen. This is how you can help handle yourself, handle the situation, not be reactionary. Yeah, what you need to be preparing for.
Yeah, all of that. It's like that finding your inner calm in knowing that you're about to enter a battle that you didn't even ask for. You probably just asked, hey, if you don't mind, I'd really like it if we could paint the bathroom green. I'm just throwing that out there. Or, if we could stop spanking the kids, I think there's a better way we could do it. And it turned into a explosion. Just know that if it ends up turning into a situation where you're working with someone like Stacy and you're going towards that divorce, it's probably going to be high conflict. And your power in the situation is to control yourself and how you're reacting to that person who used to manipulate your relationship and the dynamics that you had. And hopefully you can work with your attorney and document what you need in order to make it through unscathed, because it's definitely possible.
Because you can minimize it. Absolutely. And I think that's what we're trying to explain. Like, this exists. Now you recognize it. This is going to happen because this is the person he is. But what can you do to just kind of calm the storm?
Yeah. Because we don't want you fighting a battle. You don't need to fight the fight. She's fighting the fight for you. All you need to do is give her the ammunition to do the right thing. And that's really the best thing that you can do in this scenario. Hey, so if this is your first time tuning into Uncontested, we're so glad you're here. If it's the 8th time you're tuning in, we're so glad you're here, whichever one. I hope that you are enjoying it and that you are learning from it. If you have any questions or any topics that come to mind that you would love us to cover, please drop it in the comments and let us know how we can be of service to you. We want you to understand what you're walking into or what you might be dealing with, or just help you feel seen because maybe you made it through a high conflict divorce and you want to feel validated and confirmation that you handled it the right way. Hell, I don't know why you're here, but we're glad you're here. So tune in next week to see what else we have for you on Uncontested.